Cohort. This is week 12. This is a final xAPI spring cohort session, and it is day 2 of our showcase with our team members. But before I get started with that, I do have some announcements. Now, first and foremost, you've got Learning and HR Tech Solutions. It starts next week. And I believe registration closes tomorrow. And so if you haven't had an opportunity, please go ahead and register. It's in Florida in Orlando. And so if you're local, please join us. Or if you're not and you want to catch a plane. Our next online conference is the Science of Learning, and it's going to be taking place on June 12th and 13th. It'll be a lot of great information, all backed by science, so that you can take that back and put that into your ID toolkit. And of course, this is the Learning Guild. If you are not a member of the Guild, I encourage you to become one, as you have all kinds of different benefits, and the membership is free. We do give discounts to our face-to-face conferences, our online conferences, and there are free webinars and sessions, much like what you see here. And with that, I'm going to just give us an idea here of who we're going to be seeing at today's cohort. We saw a number of teams last week, but this week we are going to see the Jeff Batt team, who headed that up, and Torrance Learning headed up a program team as well. And then finally, we have our beginners, and our beginners are presented by two ladies who were absolute beginners in our last cohort last fall. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn things over to Jeff, who's going to be sharing first.
Awesome. Thank you. Let me get my screen going here. And let me move this over. Okay, so my cohort was, or my group was going to create an interactive video. And the idea was to get more data out of a video, like different choices that they made, and have things of like how many times or how many steps did they do in the choices. And so that was the idea. And the way that I approached it is I created several different videos on the Slack channel. So if you haven't watched those already and you just want to see how it was done or my thought process as well, feel free to go into that Slack channel and just watch those videos at any given time. And now I used a couple different tools in the initial planning. Cecilia, who's also going to be presenting in a different thing, was very helpful to create like the initial script. And the script was generated by ChatGPT in order to come up with like a scenario here. So what I did from her script is I started to break it down using a tool that's available on Mac, or it's similar to like Miro or something like that. Is I started to break down the requests and the different possible branches of those requests. So in this case, her first scenario that she came up with was, I'd like to start working from home 2 different days a week. And so then it would basically give the choice of the manager of like, okay, submit an approval and we'll talk about it, or we need you in the office, and it kind of denies it. So that's why I have the approve and I have the deny here. And then based on that, it either takes him to the scenario complete, or it takes him onto another kind of rebuttal from the employee as well. So that was the idea. And it helped me to kind of branch these things out, because I started thinking about, especially with the xAPI, it's important to think about the event that's happening, because once you know the event, you're able to pick up and send over statements at that point. So the event is the question is being asked. The data is they want to work from home 2 days a week. And so that could be data that I use in the xAPI statement or not. And then that could give me an idea of what verb. And so you can see here, I started to map out different verbs and then additional context, because you have the actor, the verb, and then the object, and you could provide additional context and stuff inside of that object. So as I started to map that out, it gave me a good idea of where things might go. And again, in my video, I described this a little bit more in depth. And then the next thing after creating those videos, after creating that kind of outline, Cecilia was awesome and she created a video. She grabbed some video, like stock video from Pexels, but she also used this AI voice generator in order to actually take the text that she had scripted or ChatGPT had scripted to generate the audio. So I just wanted to give her a shout out how awesome she was on that. And we created these, and I'm going to launch this from Swarm Cloud, but I'm sending the data over somewhere else. But then we created these videos that then started to pause and then branch and other things. So I'm going to play the video. I'm going to show you kind of where it stops and how it reacts. I don't know, you probably won't be able to hear the audio from here, but I'm going to just play this. And that part's not important. We just wanted some like stock video and audio in order to play around with it and to kind of create this template and stuff. So I'm going to click on launch here. It's then, all of it was built in Storyline. So let me hit play here.
I'd like to start working from home a week.
So simple request, I'd like to start working from home 2 days a week. This is the choice that animates in. And then I go ahead and say, well, we need you in the office. Me as a manager, how would I respond? So
I understand, but at this time, we need you in the office. Is there a specific reason you're requesting this change?
So I understand, but we need you in the office if you didn't hear that. And so now it pauses, and then you continue.
I have a long commute and think this change will improve my work-life balance.
Just so you know, Jeff, we're hearing it loud and clear.
Okay, awesome. So yeah, there is then another option that scrolls in. And so it can continue depending on which choices they make. It could take them down a different path, or it could like kind of end the scenario. But if I choose kind of push back a little bit more, it's going to take me down further. So I'm going to go ahead and select this other one.
I understand your concern. Have you considered adjusting your commuting hours to avoid rush hour?
And then I'm going to hit continue.
That's a good idea, but I still prefer working from home. What's the next step?
So this last one, the video is kind of the first one. We didn't have a conclusion on the last video. So when I choose this last one, it's going to repeat one more time. And I'm going to select that.
I understand, but for now, we need you in the office. Let's revisit this in the future.
And not that last one, but this last one is going to be a repeat.
I'd like to start working from home 2 days a week.
So that would be like the final conclusion, and then you're done with the simulation and you hit close. So that was packaged up in CMI5 and uploaded to Swarm Cloud. But I also sent the data so I could create like a custom report. I sent the data over to Veracity in order for me to like start creating my own reports there. Because even though the data in Swarm Cloud does come over, and you can see all of the xAPI statements that are coming over, it doesn't really allow you to create graphs and make it visual. So I'm going to come into analytics here, and then I'm going to go into my custom, and I'm going to go into my interactive video. Now I'm going to come back to this here in a second. I do want to jump into Storyline to show you how the branching and the xAPI statements were built in the last 5 minutes that I have here. But if I go into the story view, you'll notice here's scene 1, and here's the request, and then here's option B or option A. And then if this is the final scenario, so I just used a simple branching scenario, created all the different steps into different scenes right inside a Storyline. Now, if I double click on this, it will play the video. And then at the end of the video, it's going to first of all send over an xAPI statements. So this is in addition to what Storyline is already sending over, I wanted to send over specific statements that I identified. So in this case, send xAPI statements watch request 1. And if I click on that, it's going to pull up the custom JSON here. And all I did was basically add the watched verb, and then I added, it's going to pull the title, which is of the page, which is request 1. And it's going to add, I just wanted to do like request 1 video. And so I added just a space and then a video within the quotes in order to get that request 1 video coming over. And then the choice pops up. And so this is basically a layer. So at the end of the video, it shows the layer. And then there is a cue point. And then at that cue point, what it does is it sends over another xAPI statements. another xAPI statement that they viewed the choice. I just wanted to keep track that they actually viewed the choice and the choice came up, because if they closed it out, I wanted to know that basically. So that's the reason for that. And then I kept track of this number of steps. How many steps did it take for them to get through? And I know I'm almost out of time, so I'll hurry. So I kept track of that. And then I answered, I sent over this answer here, which was choice 1. And then I basically, this is not, because it's a layer, it's not an official question inside a storyline. And so I had to add on some additional xAPI data in order to get what that request was. So the CMI interaction and so forth. And then also the elapsed time. I wanted to keep track of the elapsed time, how much time they spent before they answered the question. That's some additional data that I added there. So I did that for every single question. And then here it just jumps them on to the next thing. And the final one that I want to show you is this finished scenario, because this added on, use the extensions, which allows you, it's so flexible, the extensions, allows you to add on additional data. So this additional data that I added is I wanted to know the number of steps that they took in order to get to this. So with that in mind, what I did is then inside of the Learning Record Store, and I'll have a video that goes more into depth on the channel, so check that out. But I created this custom report to see how many people watched the video request 1, how many request 2, how many request 3. Then I could keep track of scenario completions, how many people completed the entire scenario. So there's this nice little graph that I can use with that xAPI data inside of Veracity to create this. And you can do it in Watershed. You can do it in any learning record store out there. Average steps. So I wanted to know how many average are people doing in order to get the completion, which right now it's 2.43. So it doesn't round the number. I could do that if I wanted to. Total time. I wanted to see like how much time have people actually spent total across the board inside of this course. And I've just done a lot of testing, so not a lot, but about 13.16 minutes. And then here it breaks it down into choices. So choice 1 is I can hover over it to see exactly what the response was. And I can see how many people are choosing submit a formal request over we need you in the office kind of thing. So this allows me to gauge how the managers are reacting inside of these scenarios, so I can see exactly how my organization is doing and reacting to these types of things, which I thought is incredibly useful data to get that kind of thing out here. And then also the number of steps. This is actually pulling that data from that variable that I was keeping track of that I showed you. Because I added it as an extension inside of the report, I could actually average that out really easily just by adding on that little extension thing. And then average time to question. So on question 1, people are spending about average 9.86, looks like about the same for question 2, and then question 3. And this is because I'm just doing it quickly, but that's, you can see and break this down of how much time. So I'm out of time, but that was the goal, was to be able to create this interaction and get a lot more detail out of video, and to have this get a lot more detail on how my users are responding in certain like soft skills scenarios. So yeah, that's all I have.
That is great, Jeff. That is wonderful to see the dashboard, and thanks to Cecilia for helping out with that. So now we're going to move on to Team Torrance Learning with Meg Fairchild and Matt Clear. With Matt. There we go.
All right. Let me get the right screen sharing here. Thanks, Karen. We are Team Test Your LMS. Matt and I are both with Torrance Learning up here in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but we were absolutely not alone in this. We had a bunch of people participating, and I will be flashing everybody's names up at the end. But for now, I'm just going to hop right into what it was that we pulled together for the cohort this time around. So we started off kind of presenting people with a challenge or a mission, if you so choose to accept it, asking people to go to our website, where we have posted some storyline output files and asking people to upload that to your LMS to see what data is being captured from your LMS from an xAPI standpoint. So, and seeing how well does your LMS handle that xAPI and handle the reporting of the xAPI data, just to get a sense of what is out there. Then we put together a spreadsheet and asked everybody to fill out a few columns, share with us their results. And we were available to troubleshoot via Slack as needed, did hop on a call or so with people as well, so they could keep moving forward. And then we regrouped at the end to see what we had. We started with a pretty big list of LMSs, and we did a lot of testing on a lot of them, but didn't get quite all of them. One of the things that we learned that I'll talk about later is that not everybody has that admin level access in order to be able to do the level of testing and reporting that we were looking for this exercise. So that was one limitation that we had. These were the evaluation criteria that we used. Did the LMS receive all the statements that were sent by the course? Did you have a way to view the statements, either a list of the statements, Meg answered, whatever, or to see the raw statements themselves? And the reason we asked that question was we wanted to ensure there was a way to do troubleshooting within that system. We added this to the list? Does the course resume as you would expect, in part because we saw a little bit of funny behavior in one LMS that we were testing. So we didn't have data on every LMS in that respect. I'm assuming when people didn't answer that question for us, it was because they didn't know what we were asking or why we were asking that question. So we could do some follow-up date on that one. We asked about reporting. Did you get standard reporting, like from your very similar reporting to what you would get from your SCORM data? Or were you able to do advanced reporting? So those were two separate things that we were evaluating. And then we had a space where we could take some additional notes about hurdles or challenges that people experienced. So we're going to show you some results from 4 different LMSs out of the 9 that were tested. And this is where Matt gets to do a little bit of talking.
Right. So I checked out Absorb LMS. So they have xAPI support. So a lot of these, well, one of the reasons why we like to do this testing is because a lot of them will say we support xAPI, but you have no idea what that means when you're just looking at marketing materials. So being able to actually upload things and test it out was really important. So being able to receive all statements, yes. There was a little bit of issues in the beginning. There's a few quirks there. I won't go into all the details here. There's a little more detail in our Excel, which we'll share in a minute, or you can go to the Slack channel. Receives all statements. It doesn't have a statement viewer, so you can see your raw statements. So it's kind of all happening under the hood, and you just kind of hope that it's working okay. As Meg said, often it's just a stream of data, so it's not like you can really use that necessarily, but it's nice to see that and make sure that things are working the way you expect. So it's kind of a nice to have in an LMS if possible. Resume save state, it did resume, although there's an alert message that sometimes will say you're going to lose your progress, but you aren't going to. I think maybe it's just a standard message that pops up there because it could potentially in some situations, I'm not sure, but it works fine. It just makes it sound like it isn't. The standard reporting, tabular report, yes. and that actually goes into the additional notes at the bottom there. At first, it would report on some things, but it was a little bit off, or some pieces of missing data. So you have to actually turn on what they refer to as xAPI performance enhancements on the back end to be able to enable more advanced reporting. And I think that means like questions and choices and a multiple choice. It actually pulls those together and ties it all together neatly in the report. So make sure that's on if you're using Absorb. You'll have to go through, the admin on Absorb side to turn that on. They don't have any more advanced reporting for context activities or extensions. You have a certain number of columns that you can have in a report. Some of it's xAPI, some of it's just internal LMS data, but you can't add additional things or dig into the actual xAPI itself. So it's basic support. It works, but nothing too far beyond that.
The next one I'll talk about quickly is Cornerstone on Demand. As far as receiving statements, almost all of them were received, and actually Cornerstone was one of the reasons why we even built this LMS test course in the first place, because we were working with a client who said they had Cornerstone, and as we looked at Cornerstone's documentation, we saw that Cornerstone has a list of verbs that they accept. So if you have a verb that is not in their list of acceptable verbs to use, that statement is completely ignored, and it does not end up in your data. So that's one thing we kind of want to call out to people, so that if you're planning to use verbs, that you're very careful about that. Or planning to use verbs that aren't on their list, that you are aware of that ahead of time. Ability to see raw statements. This, like Absorb, some things require that they turn on extra things in the back end. So this was another thing that had to be turned on. I believe that everything does resume saved state. That particular column wasn't filled out in the spreadsheet, but I believe that is a yes. I will follow up with everybody if that is incorrect. Reporting. The documentation from Cornerstone says that this is available, but we weren't able to produce any reports at this time. So if anybody out there does have Cornerstone and knows a little bit more about how to get the reporting to work as we would expect, would love any feedback or tips or pointing in the right direction there. Advanced reporting, not to our knowledge. And then last thing we have here is, again, according to documentation, it looks like if you want that data to be, if you want to be able to access it like through a query, or to really get your hands on the xAPI data and do some of your own advanced reporting by tapping into their LMS, LRS, you will need to get an API key. Is that right, Matt? An API key from your representative at Cornerstone. And so we have yet to meet somebody who has successfully been able to do that, and it may just be that we haven't found the right people at the right levels with the right admin access at their organization to be granted such a thing, or that it may be an extra add-on thing that their company has chosen not to pay for. So a little bit, we're unsure about certain things when it comes to Cornerstone and how they support xAPI, because it's a little bit of a black box that we haven't been able to crack yet. Next up is Learn Share by Underwriters Laboratories, and I'll let Matt talk about that one.
Yeah, so this one does receive all statements. They do have a statement viewer. However, it is per user. So you're not seeing, as an admin, I can't see all the statements across all users. I can see my statements. So that may be a limitation if you need to see, across everyone. Resume save state, yes, that's fine. Standard reporting, SCORM-like, but they do have in their ad hoc custom reporting the ability to add extensions, so you can add those as columns and get additional. And the reporting does go across your entire system, so it's not limited to you. It's just statement viewer is limited to you, but the reporting is across everything and other criteria that you can add there.
I see the note in the chat from Joe Kyle. Thank you, Joe, for chiming in there about the standard reporting and how to access that. So we'll do a little more digging in that. Last but not least was Wisetail, and they do receive all the statements. No ability to see any raw statements. I'm guessing, yes, that they do resume save state. They're reporting, the person that we talked to that did the testing admitted that their reporting was pretty, it's not the strongest part of their platform. So even on SCORM reporting. So I think the little bit that you get from SCORM is you're going to get a little bit from xAPI as well. And then there was a little bit of interesting behavior that our testers saw on Wisetail, where the files that we were using, especially actually the CMI5 test file that we provided, worked to produce some additional data in the LMS. However, when she just tried to create her own storyline file and publish for CMI5, she didn't get the same level of data. So I'm not sure if that's because we were using xAPI custom statements, and with that is a bit of code that lives on the slide master that sends like kind of sets it up to be able to capture those additional statements. I don't know if that had some bearing on what was able to come through, but that's what we found in Wisetail. So in summary, we have some buckets. I kind of tried to give a sense of the level of support that different LMSs that we were able to test. And as far as we could tell, based on the criteria that we tested, knowing that we probably weren't getting all of it, like for instance, in terms of like Cornerstone On Demand, not being able to get the reporting to work right. These were the buckets I thought things kind of were placed in. I did also add on into the high bucket. I just wanted to call out OnPoint Digital and Risk as being a couple of other LMSs. And I think I'm probably forgetting somebody else that should be on that list, but or maybe not. They are not ones that we tested in this particular round, but as they have been kind of leaders and at the forefront of xAPI adoption for many years, I just thought I don't want to leave them off the list knowing that they do have that high level of support for xAPI. Okay, so that is kind of the results of all of our testing. And last but not least, or close to the end here, I just wanted to let you know some of our key takeaways from the cohort this time around. So as I mentioned earlier, not everybody has that level of admin access to do the testing. And a takeaway for us, Torrance Learning, is that we could do a better job of refining the questions and the acceptance criteria that we were using in our testing. and provide some more detailed instructions for people, because I think it wasn't always as straightforward for everybody as we might have hoped. And then last but not least, asynchronous is a little bit difficult. So we kicked it off all together as a group, let everybody go off and do their testing, and then at the end, trying to get everybody to come back together again and talk about what you've learned. I think people had kind of gone off and moved on from the experience, and that's totally okay, and I get it. Perhaps some more regular meetings along the way is a more engaging way for people to keep up with Cohort week after week, and then if they miss a week, they can come back in 2 weeks or something like that. One quick thing, and then I know I need to pass it on to the next group. It's not too late. You can keep testing if you want. You can review all the results. They're in the Slack channel, and this is the link as well. I don't expect you to be able to write it down or click on it, but contact us if you'd like assistance with additional testing. The test files are on our website. Thank you to everybody who helped us with the testing or volunteered to do some testing in your LMSs. And that is it for me. And I'll pass it on to the last group.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Megan and Meg and Matt. We really appreciate the work you did there. It's really interesting to see how the LMSs stack up. And lastly, for our closing session for the xAPI Spring Cohort Showcase Day 2, we have our beginner cohort with Cecilia Fernandez and Larissa Marion. And I'm going to turn it over to those two ladies who's going to take you through the beginner xAPI cohort experience.
All right, now let's see. Hang on. Present view. Okay, let's take a look. Can you guys see the slideshow in full screen?
We see our site and schedule sort of in the middle, and it looks fine. If anyone wants to make it larger, just hover in the upper right-hand corner with some brackets.
Okay, let me just make sure. Okay. Okay. Just let's see. I may try this again. Hang on. Okay.
It's bigger.
Bigger. Okay.
What you had before? Wait, there it is. There it is.
Okay, great. And then we'll take it back. Okay, and this is full in the middle right now?
Yes, it's looking good.
Awesome. Okay, well, so hello, everybody. We are Larissa and Cecilia, and it's great to be with you today. So we led the beginner team today, and a little bit about each other. We were both complete beginners last cohort, during the fall cohort, and we formed a team, and we enjoyed working together and beginning to learn about xAPI. And Cecilia, did you want to introduce yourself as well?
Hi, I'm Cecilia Fernandez. I'm joining from Argentina, far, and I was a complete beginner last cohort. When I joined Larissa started a beginner group last cohort, and it was great, and we keep working together. And well, that's why this year we wanted to share our experience starting from scratch.
Definitely. Yeah. So last cohort, we had a small group, and our main focus, we discovered on the xapi.com website that the great first project is the prototype, the xAPI bookmarklet, which was created by Rustici, but not currently being worked on. But we focused on creating a personal learning locker to self-report our learning experiences on the web, which we then stored and tracked to the Veracity LRS, to the free subscription of Veracity. So this work led us to our goals for the next cohort, which our goals for this cohort for the beginner spring 2024 were to put together free and low cost resources and tools. That was very important to me as a beginner. How do I start? I am excited. I am passionate. I want to learn more. So how do I start for free or for a low cost? And we put together a set of free resources. We wanted to introduce the xAPI bookmarklet to more users as a first prototype, to experiment with the Veracity LRS, the free version, and ScormCloud as free options to begin with, and then to upload authoring tool courses to ScormCloud with xAPI, not lastly to take each other's courses and track xAPI data and to analyze that data. And our members throughout the cohort, throughout these past 12 weeks, have engaged with each of these chapters, from installing the xAPI bookmarklet all the way to the Veracity LRS, the ScormCloud, and taking an authoring tool course through ScormCloud and sharing that xAPI data, and of course analyzing the data. And then this is Cecilia.
Yes. Because of the way it happened in the last cohort, we started with some structure. We knew we were going to use the bookmarklet. Larissa put that together, and the Veracity LRS. But once that was working, the rest was a bit trial and error, and we were learning as we were advancing. So when we started this group, we wanted to make that more organized, and we created this website for our beginner group. When we started, we prepared a schedule, and we created this website. We were adding material every week to the website, some videos. Larissa, do you want to show the next video?
Yes. This is the video.
Yeah. Audio?
How do I share
the audio?
So
Wow.
you'll have to, there is a share button for audio as when you first share the screen. So you may have to stop sharing, and then when you hit that share button, there's a little checkbox at the bottom, share sound or share audio.
I don't know.
Do you
You
see
want
it?
to
Are you playing a video? There's a toggle button actually.
Yes. Okay, presenter view. Okay. Oops, no, that's the presenter view. Hang on, sorry.
It's quite all right.
Okay, here we are. Okay, to share audio, share a tab. Oh, I see. Okay. We may not be able to share the audio because this is sharing another window.
Oh yeah, I see.
It doesn't matter. We can see the next. We had some videos to invite people to the group, and then we had some very instructional videos. If you can show the one on the next one. In that video, there are clear instructions on how to add tags on the bookmarklet. This is very technical. And we keep adding material to our website every week. We hope this help some of our beginners. Yes, can you show?
Yes, it will not have sound, but it will still,
Yeah, doesn't have. Okay. The website is available, is still available. So if anyone wants to join now and start working with these tools, all the material is there.
And I did drop a link to the beginner website with all this lovely material that both Cecilia and Larissa have compiled for the beginners. So you can take a look at that.
So next we explore publishing articulate courses with xAPI. Cecilia, did you want to cover this one as well?
This was yours.
Okay.
It's your course.
This is fairly basic. So you can see in SCORM Cloud under the course library. So we just use the free version of SCORM Cloud. So you can see we a couple of courses published with the xAPI learning standard. So to publish a storyline course with xAPI, of course, you go to home, then you click published, and then you just make sure that you select the xAPI option over here in reporting to an LMS. So quite basic, quite simple, but it's an important step to know for a beginner. Similarly with RISE, again, publish, and then xAPI from the Dropbox, and you just publish. So it's that simple. Under this section, we went over courses. So we worked with 3 courses that were published and sort of tested by members, because Team Service showed interest in testing xAPI with authoring tools. So after testing the xAPI bookmarklet prototype, this was the next step, to test an authoring tool course to SCORM Cloud and track the data. SCORM Cloud being primarily an LRS, which can also function as an LMS or complementary learning infrastructure for an organization. Again, a free subscription, which only allowed for 10 users. But the data here is showcased from 3 courses taken by members. That is a RISE course created by Christine Thomas. Thank you, Christine. And a storyline demo xAPI course created by myself. And then we also used the test course created by Torrance Learning for the team test your LMS with Torrance Learning project, which I also joined briefly. And I also completed that course in SCORM Cloud. And I found the course very useful. So ended up just sharing it with the beginners. And so a couple of people then took the course in SCORM Cloud. So this first sample showcases verbs that that came out in xAPI statements. So past, progressed, experienced, correctly answered, and incorrectly answered. And then data sample 2, that is Sean McLean taking my course. So this showcases only 3 verbs, and that's experienced, left, and completed. And then data sample 3, this is a course created by Christine Thomas, one of our members in the beginner cohort, taken by Matt Gastineau. So verbs in the sample are progressed, experienced, incorrectly answered, correctly answered. And then data sample 4 showcases Amy's Bright's xAPI statements in the course created by Torrance Learning. And so you can see in this course, the verbs are much more specific and they are more numerous. And that drew my attention. Left, incorrectly answered, correctly answered, experienced, interacted, started, attempted, completed. So I counted 8 different verbs. And this for me was a great lesson in itself, because all 3 courses used the same LRS or LMS, Scorn Cloud, and also having been part of the team test or LMS with Torrance Learning for a bit, I could, I knew that Scorn Cloud was one of the higher adaptability platforms for xAPI. So then it must come down to the course and to how you create a course. And of course, then how you customize the xAPI. So for future projects, that will be something I'd love to explore, which is when I create courses in terms of data analytics, I can include those data analytics goals into the very design of courses to get a greater customization of statements and of verbs at the end. So the verbs playing a major role here. And then data sample 5, this was just the breaking down of the JSON statement. That's another future goal for both of us to learn more of the code, to get more into the technical side things, into the JSON. So this showcases the actor, and then the second snippet showcases the verb. Then the third snippet showcases the context, which provides additional information about the registration of the learning experience and the related activities or context around this, such as parent and grouping activities. And then, but we see more, we see further metadata and contextual information. So there is a lot of respect into a simple statement. Not lastly, we see the object, which was base layer. So it was just the learner experienced base layer as the statement, but so much went into that one simple sentence. So something that I would like to learn more and explore more as future project. And then we have a video testimonial from our member, from Christine. Oh gosh, but the sound will not play. Let's see. Well, I will use the CC. So hopefully that will.
Okay. How long is the video, Larissa?
It is 1 minute.
Oh, okay. Okay. Thank you.
Do we have time for it?
We do. I've alerted people. We're normally at the end of our usual session, which is fine. And we're just going a little longer. And so I was just reminding people they can view the recording if they need to leave.
Sure. Well, and I feel bad that the sound is not working, but this will be available. So this presentation will be available on our site, and of course later too through the cohort. So I'm going to move on. I'm not sure how to generate here the subtitles, but I just wanted to say a big shout out to Christine, who has done so much to contribute in our cohort this last 12 weeks, both through the course and through this video and being active. Oh, sorry. Oh, okay, and then Cecilia.
Yes, I'm going to try to go fast through these last slides. Even at the end of last cohort, my vision was, okay, what happens next? How do we analyze this? Yeah, and I started analyzing my own report from the bookmark. Like, if you can show the next slide. I started with a regular report. At some point, I knew that report wasn't going to answer my questions, so I started adding the tags, and that's one of the things that I was trying to teach the members of the team. Try to add the tags, because that would add an extra layer to be able to analyze this data And this was my idea even before I went to the JSON and dig down. And I started doing some simple analysis. If you can show the next slide. This is weird because I'm analyzing myself, my activity online. But I try to do it from the point of view of course, if this were a student, what would I want to know about it? So here, I guess the graph shows my interest and how much time I'm spending on it. It was just, this is just an example of what comes next, which is the questions that I started asking myself from this data. Not so much from the data I was collecting at the moment, but what would happen next. And I have an example of what my reasoning was. Okay, most of my reports come from videos because I watch a lot of videos to learn stuff. So, well, what do these videos give me? What would I want to know about it? What are my questions? What kind of video are there? What does it mean if you send a statement that says the actor stopped the video? That could mean many things. And this is the problem. Well, not a problem, something that we have to focus on. If you can show the next slide. Sometimes stopping a video is a desirable thing. Sometimes it's not. And I think we saw this on some of the meetings during this cohort. One meeting was about XPI strategy, and the other meeting was the week 10 veracity showing all the dashboards and all the questions. There was one thing very important there is we have to know what the statement means, because for the LRS, these are words, these are nothing, they don't have meaning. So we have to know what we ask. And if you can show the next slide. This is something personal, it's my personal learning from this second cohort. Last cohort, I was on the left side, I was learning. The first thing we do for learning is send data, which in some way is backwards. We're doing the process backwards, but we need to do it. We need to send data to see how it looks like so we can start asking questions about it. But this question came a lot on Slack. Everyone that starts at this point wants to know how is this going to look in the big scale in their organization. Some people even wanted to apply the bookmark through to the organization, and we had to say, no, this is just for you to learn. And this is what I think is going to happen, and I'm going to be completely honest. I'm not using this where I work. I'm not seeing this because there is no company close to me that has adopted this yet. But what I think the real process is going to be is completely the opposite of what we're doing. It's going to start with a question, and you have to talk. The first thing you have to do, I mean, I think organizations have to do it this way. You have to talk with the statistician first. You have to say, this is what I want to know, and the statistician has to work with you. You have to work in a team. How are you going to collect the data? How does that data has to look like so you can answer that question even before you write a statement or you send a statement to the LRS? Because statistics is powerful, but it's not magic. Once the data is there, it might not fit what you want. So I think that would be but this is extremely personal opinion. I think it's good for everyone in the beginning team to say, okay, yes, you want to know how this is going to look like, but learn to use it first. So then you can have a real conversation with the statistician or whoever is in charge on this in your organization, so you can devise a strategy. That would be my my advice from what I'm learning. I just hope this helps someone. If anybody thinks this is wrong, I'm on Slack. Please, let's start a discussion, a conversation, because we have to have it. Thank you. That's my, and that I guess that's where I'm going next, because on our next slide, I think we're asking a question. Okay, we started from zero. We came to hear what we were going to do next. I'm digging on the data analytics. That's my major interest right now.
Well, that is wonderful, Cecilia and Larissa. Thank you so much for putting that project together, running that team for this spring xAPI cohort. And if you notice, Meg has posted in the chat that what the question you posed is, we need to be careful about assigning meaning to an action that a learner takes, or jumping to conclusions or making assumptions. So you make a really great point there. And with that, I'm going to ask you to stop sharing. All right, great. And lastly, I just want to thank everybody here who has presented. That I have to find my PowerPoint. Thanks everyone for presenting in today and all throughout the cohort. And thank you so much for running the project teams. I think this was very valuable. It was a great session that we had today in our second session of the showcase. The last session of this cohort for the spring 2024 cohort. We're glad that you were here. We're glad that you participated. And thank you so much, everybody. And go out and get some great xAPI statements. And I put the link to the beginner course in there. And if you want, go into Slack. You'll see all kinds of things. Now, they won't be there forever. So if there is something you see that you'd like, go ahead and grab that so you can have that as a reference for yourself. Thanks everyone so much. And, have a great rest of your day and a great weekend.